Okay guys, welcome back to Tef Travails. Today we've got a slightly different one today for you. And this is going to be a bit longer because this is something of a long-term project. What we got here is what I call the drop of milk cup. When I was a kid, I used to go around to my grandmother's house. The first thing she'd do is offer you a drop of milk. And it would always be served in this very simple, quite charming little mug. And on the bottom it says Brixham Pottery, Devon, made in England. Brixham, that's not Brixton, there is a Brixton pottery, but this is Brixham. And that pottery is quite famous for this type of design with circles on it. Sort of natural, sort of coloured glazes, small pottery with circles on it. Green on the outside, yellow on the inside. And I quite like this, and it brings back some memories. And I thought I'd try and make my own, but I will try and make this by the means of gathering the clay myself, refining the clay, and firing the pottery myself. I've never done anything like this before, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I hope you enjoy it. Okay guys, this is where I'm going to collect the clay from. Believe it or not, this is a tree that fell down in the 1987 Great Hurricane, and it's still here in the wood. I've been told that clay that gathers in the root balls of trees is particularly good for some reason. I can't explain anything behind that. It's just something I saw on a video about making a furnace for an iron bloomery. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to collect as much of this as I can reasonably, and take it home and process it. One thing that does concern me slightly is that there's quite a bit of organic matter in it, bits of tree bark and needles and that sort of thing. But this is all an experiment. We'll just see how far we get. Okay, so that's the clay that we collected. It is rock solid. It really is solid stuff. I've got to break it up in some way. And the idea that I had was to use sort of pestle and mortar type technique, using this big bit of steel. And this, believe it or not, is the handle of an auger. So you put it through a ring on the shaft of the auger. But I thought we could use it like this. Yeah. That does seem to work. You just bash it up a bit. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna try and bash up some of that and see how that goes. Okay, so it has gone all right actually. If I keep on doing this more, all of this will turn to dust basically, and the bigger bits do manage to get broken up quite easily because this bar is heavy. I think if I wasn't using a flexible bucket, that would help a bit more, and maybe even if there was just a bit of wood underneath it. The amount I had was enough to fill this broken flower pot here, but that's why there's a bit of paper in the bottom. So I'm going to keep doing this. There's really quite small pieces. One thing that does concern me though is the amount of organic matter that we've got in here. Little things like pine needles and little bits of tree bark, sort of things you'd expect to come from tree roots. So I can't be too surprised, but the thing about that stuff is it burns, and when it goes in the kiln, which I've still yet to design, is it going to burn and cause little air pockets and explode and break the work apart? There's only one way to find out. Okay, well, after a bit of messing around trying to make coiled pottery, I think I'm going to try and do this properly this time. So what I've learned from looking at other people's videos is you basically start off with two buckets, one that you're working in and then one that you pour your product into. And it appears that what you do is you make a suspension of natural clay, which you then pour into the other bucket and let it settle out. and then when it settles out you pour it off into something that you can filter it through. That drains off the residual water, and then what's left inside your filter is what you can use as actual workable clay. So let's start off by making that suspension, and it's in here that you will knock out all of these lumps and turn it into something approaching clay. Now that is interesting. As soon as I put water on there, all of that organic matter has floated off. So I think I'll be able to use that, what it's doing there, as a way of skimming it off, so that all of that organic matter doesn't end up in the clay. Let's see if that works. Just got the kid's sieve here. Okay, that is working. Yeah, that's pulling up a load of pine needles and stuff like that. So I'll scrape all that off and then start kneading and working this clay to get all the lumps out, and I'll bring you back then. So all I'm doing here is literally just using my hands to break up these lumps of clay that are in here and turn it into a suspension. The other thing that you manage to do while doing this is dig out stones, and there are actually quite a few, like that one there. So that will come out, and yeah, just keep doing this, squeezing it through my fingers, and then I'll sieve out the remaining bits of organic matter, and then pour it into another bucket where it can settle out. Well, as you can probably hear, it is absolutely honking out here. We just had a hailstorm, and I've had to bring the work inside because it is absolutely chucking it down, and I don't want my bucket of water to get wet. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, don't tell the wife, but I'm just going to use this sieve to try and get out as much of the remaining muck as possible. Yeah, quite a bit of it is still coming up. I've kneaded and rubbed the clay together in my hands. I think the best way I found to do it to get all the lumps out was to sort of wash your hands with it like a bar of soap, really, and then rub it between your hands, and that does seem to get quite a bit of the lumps and lets the stones drop down to the bottom. So I'll do a bit of this, and then I will strain the solution, suspension even, into the bucket. Okay, so that's the stuff I managed to get out. It's interesting, if you just hook it up into the sieve and then shake it like this, it turns it into a ball. So what you got there really is just a ball of pine needles and other bits of muck. The rest of it I'm just going to take a risk on now. Otherwise I'll be here forever. Right, let's pour off the first bit of this suspension. This is quite heavy actually. The last thing I want to do is spill this muck everywhere. And although it seems counterintuitive, what you actually want is the water and not the stuff that's left in the bucket, which does look like clay. Apparently that is how it works. So you've got a lovely bucket of suspension there, and what looks like some nice clay, but it is quite stony. I'm not going to pour any of that because they said in the other videos, when you get to the darker silt, leave that in there, so that's going to stay there, and then we'll let that settle out. Okay, so I've got the t-shirt and bucket set up. I'm just going to start ladling off the solution into here, and let's hope that what we end up with after a couple of days is some clay left over and not all the clay on the floor. I want to get it all out? Frankly, I don't know. But you know, this is all an experiment. Okay, there's an immediate problem here, which is that when I lifted this up to try and tie a knot in the top, everything is spilling out of a hole in the t-shirt. So back to the drawing board, I'm afraid. Okay, I've settled upon this quite heavily woven bit of cotton, and I poured it all in. What I'm going to try and do now is bundle it together into a ball and then tie it up with that piece of baling twine. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, me of little faith. So there it is. It's hanging up, supported by its piece of baling twine from the rafters of the garage. And what is coming out of it is, just like in someone else's video, fairly clean water. So it would appear that I might have done something right. And it can just drip there for as long as it doesn't rain, watering that jasmine plant. And hopefully in a few days, or when I can be bothered, we'll come back and that bag will be full of clay. Let's see. Okay guys, here we are. It's been 8 days since I hung up the bag of clay to try and dry out. It stopped dripping, and the bucket is, as you can see, got a load of water in it. So let's take this down, see what we've actually got inside. If it's workable clay, or is it just going to be a big muddy mess? Okay, let's get into it. That is interesting. I can still see quite a bit of organic matter. So, although that is on the top, quite a bit of squashy stuff. It's quite dry though. I wasn't expecting that. It does behave like clay. It's very interesting. Right, I'm going to turn this out and try and mould it into one large piece. See what we get with that. So this is how it looks like when it's fully opened up. So you've got quite an interesting thing here. You've got a tide mark around the edge there, where obviously all the organic matter has floated up and separated off, and then you've got this quite sizable lump of clay. I would say that's it's probably about 1 kilo, maybe a bit more. So I'm just going to go around the edge, collect up all these bits, because I don't want to waste any, given how hard work it was to refine it. And yeah, then I'll start trying to work the clay. Okay, so there we go. There's the ball of clay that I've taken out, with all the little bits pressed into it. I just scraped off from the top a little layer which had a bit of organic matter in it. So the worst of that is gone. There is still some in there, so we'll have to take our chances with that, and let's see what it weighs. Blimey, 2.7 kilos, which is £6 of 3 ounces. So that's quite impressive for a small bucket of mud, basically. Yeah, quite pleased with the way that's turned out. Let's see if we can make something out of it now.